Welcome, crew, to What Are Your Three, a Channel 3 podcast where I feel like I can't do a normal introduction now. I'm just going to do something weird because I'm going to say we're going back to back and we're just going to roll. But I will also say this is a podcast where we take a member of the Channel 3 community, discuss 3 games they're choosing, go through some honorable mentions, some other odds and ends, have a nice little video game discussion. I'm Dan Tucker, and with me as always is Ray.
What's going on, everybody? So today's intro, I have one of my longer intros today because our guest has just so many accolades in such a short amount of time on the website. He's shaking his head already, saying, "What in the world is Ray going to say about me?" I have to say, our guest number one is the only person today who has the Hestu's Gift tagline on Channel 3. So the only member of the community who went around and got 1,000 Koroks in Tears of the Kingdom. I know him as, it's 100% of nothing. He's done it on multiple posts. You shouldn't even talk about a game until you've done 100% of it. And one of the members of the Grown Men Playing Pretend, basically our board game outlet. And we're going to get into that today. So we have with us Dennis. Dennis, how are you doing today?
Doing great, guys. I appreciate the invite. I was excited to get here.
We are excited to have you. I'm going to ask this. I'm going to jump in and ask a question before we get into our 3 like we normally do.
He's off script. Yes. This is what happens when you go back to back. It's going nuts. It's off the rails.
I was thinking about this all day. Where does the want or the need to get 100% in a video game, kind of like, where does that come from? Because I'm just like, that's just not me. I'm going to play the story. Maybe I'll do some extra stuff, but I never go outside of Super Mario 64. I think that might be the only game I've ever done 100% of. So where does that come from for you? What's the mindset with that?
For me, I think it was more, I didn't want to leave the game. It was, I was enjoying the game so much, exploring the world, doing everything there. And there were still things to be done. There were still places I hadn't been, things I hadn't seen, that I wasn't ready to be done yet. Once I hit about 890 out of 1,000 Koroks, I was ready to be done. And at that point, we pulled out the guide and I finished those last 100 or so, and now I'm done. Now I won't go back for a while.
Ray pulled a me and just like jumped in through the entire outline off the rails.
I did.
So now I have to go and introduce the game being referred to. So I have to say, now we're going to talk about Game 1, The Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom, except I'm not going to go back and edit that into before Ray asking that. So it's just going to, again, we're just rolling. So anyway.
We're just going. Right.
So
I want to go back. If you don't mind, I want to go back because I've listened to a lot of the podcast here in the last couple of weeks. And you and Dan, you always introduce Ray and you say, with me as always is El Ray or Hector or whatever. And I always think of Garth. And it's like, what am I, a chimp? With you as always? And that hits me every time.
That's only,
it's never,
that's a certain age demographic.
It is. There's not a lot of people that'll get that, but
a movie that also 90% holds up. That first one. That first one holds up extremely well. Just so we're clear. Yeah. Oh wait, hang on. No, see, Ray's giving me a look. We hit the you forced this. See, this is what happens when they listen too much. He forced the What Are Your 3 bingo card.
I've got mine here. I know exactly what I need to hit.
He's going to hit bingo. That's his goal. He's checked the movie discussion. Oh my god. Okay, so now we're gonna Game 1, Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom. How'd you get to 100%? So I got a question for you. So the first thing I have to ask before we get into this one: did you 100% Breath of the Wild also?
I didn't. I played through it twice.
Did this just catch you better? Is that what happened?
It did. Tears of the Kingdom really did just hit better. The exploration was better. The moveset, the new abilities, especially the Ascend. It was just easier to explore. It was easier to get around. So it really hit better. It fit better with that. Let's go get everything mentality.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious for a lot of folks because I know people that there were probably a small percentage you just didn't hit for, but for everybody else, like, oh, this is just what I wanted in the last game. People were complaining about the weapon damage, weapon breakage. Nope. Guess what? You just assemble new weapons and you just continue to make weapons out of whatever you feel. Oh, you like that boulder over there? Go ahead, strap it to that rusted sword you've got. I was really
Absolutely.
concerned at the start of the game when all the weapons are like everything's rusted, everything's got like a three damage on it. Like, oh, that's because they don't want you to use the weapons. The weapons are just here for show.
Yep, absolutely. They really want you to get into the building, use the fusion, tie all your stuff together. Like I said, what I was really worried about. I watched that first video where they had the developer do about 10 minutes of playthrough.
It felt
and they
desperate.
were, he did right. And he showed him attaching one stick to another stick to just make a longer stick. And I'm thinking, how long of a stick can we make? Can I, stand up at the top of the wall of the castle and poke people, halfway down the street? What are we getting into here? How crazy is that going to get? But they, other than, with the weapons, they really kept it simple. You attach two things together and that's your weapon. When you start building you can start building some pretty crazy stuff with the devices and even like wood, like trees and stuff like that. You can get pretty crazy. But I think even that they capped it at like 20 or 22. So
what was your best build? What was your craziest weapon? What do you feel like is your best weapon?
Best weapon, the Lionel horn. So you've got the silver mane Lionel. And I love, with Breath of the Wild too, I loved going after Lionel. So you got to the point where you really wanted to just hunt them and really go after them.
Contact a medical professional. We're going to need them quickly. I'm concerned.
Well, even my daughter now, she'll go hunt Lionels, which is fantastic. She's gotten to the point where she'll chase them down, and it's just like anything else. You learn the pattern, you learn the way to do it, and they get pretty easy. But the silver Lionel horn, the main Lionel horn, and then the Gerudo weapons. The Gerudo weapons, when you get them and you attach them, you get a bonus. So you get like 130 or 140 power weapon for attaching a Gerudo dagger to a Lionel horn. So that's the one that's my Lionel killer. When you jump up on the back of a Lionel and you start whacking the heck out of it, it's not taking any damage on your weapon. Your weapon isn't getting hurt. So those are just free attacks on the back of that Lionel. So I just carry one with me at all times.
How about gear-wise? As far as like any particular gear you were you went with in particular?
The climbing gear was my favorite one from Breath of the Wild, and really it was the one I wore the most in this one. With the new gear, I really liked the gliding gear, the new stuff they give you for going through. There's 3 special areas up in the cloud area, the Sky Islands. And it's really slick looking, and it had real good utility, just kind of being able to get from place to place. But it didn't absorb a lot of damage. It wasn't very useful in the depths. It didn't do you a lot of good on the ground. So like I said, climbing gear was kind of where I lived and breathed.
Did anything help you in the depths? That's the better question.
Light. I mean, as much, I had the Lionel bows where you get 3 or 5 shots, and then the light seeds. And just spreading them around like you're sowing corn, man. Just all over the place.
Oh, you used the Lionel bow before the final fight. That's just on you.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
That's one of those items I just sat on them until until the final fight. Any quests that stick out from that one? I feel like this was a game that had a rich. I felt like I didn't want to leave it, but to Ray's point, this was a game where I'm like, I'm not getting 1,000. I can't get 1,000 core XCs. It's not going to happen. So I'm just going to finish the game and get through it. But I was getting so caught up in side quests and just everything you wander into. I usually describe as, it's not like just a fetch quest. There's something almost enriching about the story that's there. Like you usually get some rupees or, maybe a low grade weapon or a recipe or something. But I felt like it was enriching to the story as much as anything.
Well, they even made they made that delineation. They had side quests and then they had side adventure. So you kind of knew like, oh, this is like there's a story here to do, right? You have the fetch quest and go do this and go stand up the millionth sign, which I love. I love.
Don't say, and we're not saying that disrespectfully at all.
No, this might be my favorite thing to do. Might have been fighting and just putting up more signs of the president. But the side adventures were like purposely extra stories, which I thought was really cool in Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I think in this one, the Lurelin Village, rebuilding Lurelin Village, going, you find if you find them in Lookout Landing, somebody there, the girl who owns the store, she talks about the village. You find a girl in Kakariko Village who talks about, Lurelin was taken over by pirates, and you kind of run into them just kind of spaced all out. and they really talk it up. You know, we're completely displaced. You know, they've destroyed the village, they've taken it over, and all the people are just kind of separated out, and we're all about. And then going in and you know, just taking out that group, and then spending time rebuilding it, and it even stretches into, you know, you build the almost like a jet ski course where you build your best jet ski and you race it around the water by the end of it. But that for this one, I think that was probably the best one. I don't think any of them hold up to Terrytown in Breath of the Wild. I think that's still the best out of all of them. But in this one, I think Lurelin Village was the best.
Any other parting thoughts? How do you feel about the boss fights in this one compared to Breath or even other Zelda games? Anything else you're thinking about here?
You know, I guess we don't really worry about spoilers on a thing like this.
No, listen, the game's been out for 4 months. Listen, if people who are caring about spoilers, it is what it is at this point.
Right. And
you can skip ahead 5 minutes and figure it out.
The Ganon fight was fantastic. They really did a great job with the Ganon fight. Go under the castle, you fight Ganon, you fight multiple Ganons. You refight a lot of the enemies if you hadn't fought them already. If you hadn't gone and done some of the temples, you have to refight those beasts. And then the dragon fight between, you know, the light dragon and the Ganon dragon, just fantastic. It was a really well put together ending.
It just looked so good. It just looked
fantastic.
Like everybody complaining about the Switch 2 can kiss my rear end if you watch that.
Absolutely.
Watch that final fight and you play that final fight, how all these things are working together. Forget your Switch 2. They're just fine.
Yep. They've done a great job. But it was beautiful. It was very well done. And I was talking to Jedi about it and about that exact thing. You know, why are so many games seem like people complain about how the Switch isn't fast enough, and yet they can do stuff like that. And it turns out that a lot of the characters in Breath of the Wild, your NPCs, they're built off of Mii's, like the old Mii's so that's the base of all of the NPCs in Tears of the Kingdom. So what Nintendo has done is Nintendo makes use of the existing technology, the existing stuff, and they just kind of feed it into their top game to kind of ease some of the tech pressure, I guess, off of what the Switch has to handle. That way they can make their games look good on their hardware.
It was a 16 gigabyte game, and there are games that can't get an update less than 16 gigabytes. That's the part that, like, and I get, like, they're only making it for one system, and I know even compared to Breath of the Wild, where they were kind of jumping ahead off of the Wii U into the Switch. Like, I know there were some size differences there, but, like, man, they make it count. They know what they're doing.
Oh yeah, they did a fabulous job. I'm really excited to see what comes next.
All right, so we move on to game 2, which is somehow game 2 on this list is a game that's 2 weeks old, maybe just about. F-Zero 99. So, how did this make number 2 on the list? It just happened.
This has been my game. I've been on this game nonstop for 2 weeks since it came out. It's become a stress reliever. I come home from work, I sit on the couch, I break out the Switch, and I'll play an hour of F-Zero 99. And it doesn't matter if it's the time trial, it doesn't matter if it's the normal races, it doesn't matter, you know, what part of it. And all of their little collectathon type of things, all the little badges you can get, you change the colors of your cars, you do all it just hit just right. And I watched these guys do Mario Kart, and I'm so far behind on Mario Kart. With F-Zero, I wanted to get in early. I wanted to be the guy, right? I didn't want to be left behind when some of these people who are so good at these games, all of a sudden, you know, they realize how popular it gets, or it blows up, and then all of a sudden, you know, we're doing time trials like we're doing this week, and, you know, right now it's just 2 or 3 of us, but eventually, I mean, it'll be a dozen people who are trying to get this time trial, and it'll be tight. It'll be like I said, I just didn't want to get left behind. It hit me just right, and I just went all out.
Have you chosen a car yet? Have you
I've played all 4 of them. I really don't mind any of them. I like, and put me on the spot, because I really don't know what the difference.
You just gotta go with the original colors. Like, I
don't know
colors.
Either.
It's the third one down. So, you know, you've got the Falcon, and then you've got like a yellow one and a pink one and a, you know, whatever. But it's the third one down.
That's the defense. That's the defense one.
Yeah. So now I've taken it. It's got kind of heavier. It's got a lot less drift to it, but it's really fun to kind of hit that boost, do a little spin, blow up a car, and then all of a sudden your boost line jumps, and just roll people over. It's fantastic. Love it.
Is this your first experience with F-Zero, or have you played this series before?
It is. I probably played the one on Super Nintendo 35 years ago. Because I can remember the boost track, right, where you had to kind of go off and you've got the glowing lines to increase your boost. But it seems like F-Zero back then was just one boost per lap. And then your damage bar was what you refilled at the end of each lap. This one here, that damage bar and your boost bar are the same bar. So the more you get hurt and the more boost you use, they kind of go hand in hand, so you've got to kind of watch things a lot. But no, like I said, that F-Zero 99 hit, I was never a fan. I tried Tetris 99, I tried Pac-Man 99. They're okay. I couldn't get into them. There's too much going on. I couldn't follow.
Watch your tone about Tetris 99. You're on notice. Just watch your tone.
I know it.
It's a hostile environment, right?
I just couldn't. Maybe I'm too old. I couldn't pay attention to that many things at once.
So you are one of, I think, 3 people right now who've posted that they've won a race. Mm-hmm. What's the secret to winning? I've gotten third place twice, and it's by sheer luck. I have no idea how I made it to third place.
You save your boosts for the last lap. You want a full boost bar going into that last lap. It doesn't matter. You can be rest easy in about 40th place for most of the other laps. You're comfortable. It doesn't matter. You're picking up the gold pellets for the ultra boost or super boost or whatever they call it. The important thing is a full boost bar going into that last lap. It clears all mistakes. You can just blast through everything, and that'll get you about 90% there.
Playable Characters Podcast, funny interviews with real video game characters.
Hi, I'm Calvin Cato.
And I'm Brian McGinnis, and we interview video game characters on our show. We have comedians and actors come on and pretend they're a video game character for 30 minutes. We talk to them. It's all ad-libbed and improvised, and always very funny.
Past guests include Bowser, Ms. Pac-Man, Q*bert, Princess Peach, and Princess Daisy.
Yeah.
Yep.
You put them in a booth, and something short-circuited, and I decided that someone was taking too long in the money booth. And I hit her with a baseball bat. And thus was born Super Smash TV.
Just like that.
I was being raised by a family of toadstools.
Oh. How is that? That seems like it might be kind of fun.
It was really fun.
Mario should stick to plumbing, okay? Okay, he's from what I hear, a good plumber, a terrible hero.
Yeah.
So, really bad. And, let's not get started on his whatever he is, friend, brother, special friend, I don't know, Luigi, whatever they're doing. Well, that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. They're saying they're brothers because, in the Italian-American community, these people tend to not look kindly on certain relations.
If you want to know what's going on in your favorite video game character's life, check us out. Playable Characters Podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yes, comes out every Monday.
All right, well, let's move on to Game 3, where we're going to the Total War series, but going back... I'm getting whiplash from temporal whiplash here, because we're going from a pair of games that have come out in the last fiscal quarter to a game from the beginning of this century at this point, which I'm going to say that way just to make it sound worse, but going back to medieval Total War here. Listen, I'm in the same demographic as you, okay? I'm in the same checkbox, okay? So easy.
Sure. Yeah, no, I got you.
We just came off another podcast. I'm just going to say, we just came off another podcast. Somebody's talking about their high school days in 2014. So I'm still hurting, and I just need someone else to suffer here.
I just want to clear that I was not my high school days in 2014.
Oh man, that just really makes me.
All right, Total War. This is before people were born.
That's right. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of people who they won't. 2002 was a long time ago for a lot of these people, and even if they were born, they definitely weren't playing video games. Total War for me was, I love the strategy behind it. And to put people put this in perspective for people, this is like Risk on speed, right? This is everything, all of the different intricacies that go into running a kingdom or running an empire with your taxes, your religion, your military, your building all your buildings, you're taking care of your people, you're marrying your princes to other princesses and your princesses to other princes. You're paying attention to the Pope. You got to, listen to what he says. You've got to watch. It's just, it was always just a fantastic game. So I've played every faction multiple times, hardest levels, start as early as I can and go all the way through the end on all of them. And I love it every time. I've completely skipped the real time. They've kind of got a real time battle simulator where when you pick a fight between two countries, you can go in and you can actually put yourself down in the army of the foot soldiers and control them. I skip those completely. I let the computer do it for me. I want to do the risk part. I want to do the map. Give me the map of Europe and let me take over.
So when's the last time you played this one? So obviously you've played through it a few times.
Yeah, I've played it this year. I usually will go back to it several times a year, and I'll pick it up and I'll start with either France or England. They're red and blue, so it's here in Kentucky everything's red and blue for U of L and UK. So I'll start with France and England and just play through a game, and it gets me hooked again. And I'll think, okay, now I've gone through it this way. Let's go through with somebody completely different. Let's do Egypt or let's do Turkey. Okay, now I've done an Arab faction or a Muslim faction. I've done a Catholic faction. Let's do somebody who's not one of those at all. Let's do like a Jewish, like an Orthodox Jewish faction, because religion plays a big part in the game. If you don't keep your people happy religiously, they'll revolt. There'll be civil wars. Your entire empire splits in half, and you got to start over. Rebuilding and re-dominating from the beginning. So a lot of thought goes into it from the beginning. From, like I said, taxes, religion, military, royalty, and all of it. And it just hits me right. It's a good game for me.
Spoken like a tabletop guy, if I ever heard one right there. That's
absolutely. It's I don't know. There was a game called Diplomacy that was, again, it was like a next level of risk, and it was a board game. And I would watch it, if whether or not it was adults, neighbor adults, or surely it wasn't my parents, but I would watch them play it, and I would think, why do they get to make treaties, and they get these different units, and we're playing with Roman numerals when we're playing.
We're just
Risk,
rolling
right?
dice, and
we're rolling. Yeah, it's like I want to play that game, and then it's video game form, and it stands up 20 years later for me.
So so first of all, where are you playing this? First of all, is this on Steam, or you still got the disc you've been looking around for a couple decades now?
I've got it on Steam now. So Steam had a thing, and this is they may still do it. I don't know, where you could go and you could put in your CD key for a game that you have, and it would register it to your Steam account. So I took the CD key for all of my Total War games, Half-Life. I had the orange box for all the Half-Life stuff. Bunch of Age of Empires games, and plugged in all my CD keys, and it put them all in my Steam library. So now anytime I get a new laptop or a new computer, I'll reinstall what I want to play and roll with it. Yeah.
So you mentioned, so I was going to ask that other question. So Total War, they're still putting games out.
They are.
Yeah, Warhammer 3, I think, was their most recent one. But so is this just the one that sticks? You've tried other ones, and this is just the one to keep coming back to?
This is the second one in the series. Shogun Total War, I think, came out in like 2000, 2001.
Yeah, it was right before that. Yeah.
Yep. So this one came out right after. And I tried Rome Total War. They added too much to it, and it got it. For me, who I like the minutia of it, it was too much going on. I couldn't keep it all juggled, right in my head. I've tried, Total War 2. Again, they updated graphics. They've made things. It looks fantastic. It's just a different game. It's not the same as my medieval Total War. So I've got the Viking expansion for it, and there's an expansion that brings in the Mongols when they invade from the east. So those, I install all that together with medieval Total War, and they said I'll go through and I'll play it for 6 or 8 weeks. I'll sit and play for 3 or 4 hours at a time, get through a game, and then come back to it tomorrow, come back to it a couple days later, play another game. And like I said, I'll do that for probably 6 weeks, and then I'll get tired of it again, uninstall it, and do it again next year.
All right, one last question. So a quest you've answered previously on Channel 3 was, what game would you add an online mode to? And this was the one. So tell me, what's your online mode going to be?
The online mode would be that version of it, the looking at this map of Europe with 7 other people. You know, I can imagine it would be an 8-hour game, right? It's going to be one of those marathon kind of games where you're going to be sitting there. You've got to have your Monster or your whatever your energy drink of choice. You got to have your peanut M&Ms, and you're gonna put in the time and do it. I got a couple of friends to play it over the years, and most people enjoyed it, not as much as I did, but they enjoyed it to the point where they would replay it. It's a niche that I think finding those kind of people, I can't find them here locally, that's for sure. But there's got to be I can't be the only one that still enjoys it and still has fun with it. And being able to put that up against somebody alive and not just a computer player who eventually they make the same moves over and over and over. You crack them into a corner and then it's predictable. You know, give me somebody who's going to fight different or fight dirty or do something weird. You know, give me an alternate person.
Okay, now we move on to the honorable mentions. A few games that just missed that top 3. And we are starting with Pokemon Stadium on the N64. So the N64, at least for Nintendo, sends us all into 3D land. Obviously, Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, and now Pokemon come out of the Game Boy and onto this 3D platform. So Pokemon Stadium, why is this the next one up for you?
Pokemon Stadium is less about the game and more about the experience with my daughter. With Emma, you know, she loved to watch us play video games, right? I play Nintendo, sit on the TV, and she wants to play, right? She's getting older. She's 4, 5, 6 years old. She wants to be a part of it. And she's watching the Pokemon cartoons. She's following along with that. Her friends at school have Pokemon. They know what some of the characters are. And I've had Pokemon Stadium on the 64 since college. You know, I had it back then and kind of played through it just to do it. But me and her would sit and she would go through and she would pick out all of the characters for both of us to have. And we would battle 6-on-6 over and over and over. And it was a blast. It was really the first video game that I was able to get her to understand, to play on her own. She didn't need me to hit the buttons for her. She didn't need me to, go through and select anything. There were days when I would get home from work and she would already have it turned on and she's got it there waiting on the TV. She just needs me to come and pick my characters and build my team. She doesn't want me to look at her team because, if she's got all grass type, she doesn't want to pick fire type. That's cheating. So like I said, she got it, and then that was that game. She finally, things just clicked, and she got it.
I was going to ask, when you're building these teams, were there themes to the kind of the teams that were built?
For mine, there usually were. For her, I think for her it was let's pick the ones that look big and strong. Right. Let's go for the Entei. Let's go for the let's go for the Snorlax. Let's go for the big guys. For me, I would try to go with a gym. She'd say, "Oh, I want to fight rock type, or I want to fight water type." Fine, great. Oh, and then win or lose, it didn't matter. We had an absolute blast.
Does Pokemon, outside of just the game that you play with your daughter, are you a fan of Pokemon? Is that something that interests you? Or was it just that it was a turn-based game and it was easy for a little kid to pick up and play? Easy.
We do Pokemon. We've done cards. I've bought cards. We've watched the cartoons. When I was in, I guess the cartoons came out in the mid '90s, I think. So I was watching them in early high school, and it was just a little bit young for where I was at. But the whole idea of it was, that, like I said, that turn-based Magic the Gathering was really big, and this was kind of the next new card game was Pokemon after Magic. And again, just like with F-Zero versus Mario Kart, it was one of those things where I missed Magic the Gathering. It came out earlier than I was there. So Pokemon interested me in that same way. It's like I didn't want to miss another thing. So we keep up with it. I know the characters. I've got Pokemon Go. We've got several little games here. I've never played any of the main games. The only things that I've ever really played are like I said, Pokemon Go. I've got Arceus here, the Pokemon Legends and that sort of thing. But the battles for Stadium was the fun part for me. Putting two different types up against each other, kind of like rock paper scissors in video game form.
Do you have or do you play it on the Nintendo Switch expansion, the online expansion, or is it's played on the N64 still?
It's played on the N64. Yeah, I've got other than the Wii U, I've got a copy of every Nintendo, going back to the old NES, and there are things that we play on every one of them.
Do you ever play the mini games on Pokemon Stadium?
We did. I liked. We would do like the I don't remember what all the Pokemon are called. The little weasels where they would bounce the balls back and forth.
Yeah.
There was one with the where you were going down a river, swimming down a river, dodging logs and that sort of thing. Again, it was Emma. We would let her pick. Do we want to battle? Do we want to do these? Because that was kind of the start. It was very similar to some of the Mario Party games that are out now. A lot of those mini games are similar to that. But yeah, those were good too.
Well, we're going to stick with the N64. It's not going to run the table for your honorable mentions, but it is going to make another appearance here as we talk about WCW and WO Revenge. THQ,
Absolutely.
Speaking of running the table, did so with the Nintendo 64. I will speak on your behalf and say they owned the peak of the wrestling genre for gaming probably during this this time. I'm going to let you take over from there. But I'm going to tee it up and just set the bar really high.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was a great game. We were wrestling fans, me and my little brother, way back. We've always had wrestling games, no matter what system we had at the house. The WCW NWO Revenge was one of those games where, like you said, 3D. You climb outside the ring. You could grab bats or chairs out of the crowd and whack each other with them. And we play with, we played through it's one of those ones where you had to play through the one player campaign to unlock characters. This was back before, you just got characters or they let you,
you didn't
buy them as DLC.
Yeah, it wasn't a DLC pack. Yeah.
No, you had to complete certain things to unlock characters, and there were probably 40 characters to unlock. And who knows I still don't know that we've got them all because we didn't have online to go out and look and see, okay, well, how do I unlock the next guy? You just kind of lucked into it.
No, Ray, in 98, people like us didn't have the internet, okay?
I played games in 1998. I think you try to make me younger every podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm still hurting from episode 43. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, no kidding. The other big thing with this game, I played it a lot in college. I met another guy in college, and he's another big wrestling fan. And we got to hanging out, and I told him I had the game, so we would sit in my dorm room in college, and we'd play this game, night after night. This was kind of our end of the day. We've ate dinner, we're winding down. We'll do some wrestling, have some matches. We even had a championship belt that we would take back and forth in college. One night he called me before he came down. And he said, "Hey, I met this girl, and I really want to hang out with her. Would you mind if I bring her to your room? She'll play Nintendo with us. It's 64 is a 4-player thing." He said, "I want to bring her down." I said, "Yeah, absolutely, bring her down. We'll have fun. It's great." And I cleaned up the room. Made sure it's a guy's dorm room. You don't want it to be too bad for when girls come over.
This is pre-Febreze also, people, just so we're clear.
Pre-Febreze. Febreze did, you might get lucky if you had the spray bottle like Glade or something. But she came down, and she's a nice girl. I could tell that they didn't really there wasn't any kind of anything there, right? Well, like you said, I met her then for the first time, and I ran into her again about 6 months later. I had an apartment off campus for the summer. She had an apartment right across the parking lot, and we kind of hit it off and started dating, and we ended up married. And so my buddy brought this girl down to play wrestling with us, and I ended up marrying her instead of him. I still get congratulations from him. On our anniversary, he'll say, "You're welcome, congratulations." He takes full credit for introducing us, and I'm happy to give it to him. So Yeah, that's
I just enjoyed that because in my preparations I had this tagged as one of your quests was this particular game while I was looking at it. And what was the first game you played with your significant other? So the second you started that story with my buddy wanted to bring a girl down, I said, "Oh no, I know where this story's gonna end. This is gonna go well for
my buddy." Yeah,
right.
No, but he's married. He's got kids. He's fine. I got the better wife, but still,
He's fine.
I can't top it. I'm done. I'm out.
But yeah, that's the big story for those. That's really those two on the list with Pokemon and WCW. It's really more about the experience that came from it than the games themselves. The games are great. I love Pokemon. I love wrestling. But like I said, the stuff that comes from the family for that was really the biggest things for those.
All right, so we've made it to the part of the podcast now that we have to talk about board games. Dennis is one of our board game masters here, and I think Jedi started the trend, right, Dan? As the board game person,
the one and only,
the one and only. So it's going to start happening little by little, especially when board games get officially added to the site, which it's happening. It's going to happen for sure.
He just wants to know when his podcast invite's coming out.
We'll get there. So the board game you want to talk about is Scythe, and I'm just going to kind of ask, about the game. Tell us about it, because Scythe to me is a book series, and I looked at the board game, and this board game is not that book series. So
it is not that book series. Scythe is, and what's weird about it is now that I've sat here and talked about Total War, I'm thinking about how much in common it has with Total War.
I was thinking the same thing as you were describing Total War. I was like, oh, look at this. It is alternate history of Europe. I was like, there we go.
That's it, exactly. Alternate history. It's World War II or World War I just ended. Somehow they had mechs and like robots and a little bit higher tech than what they really had in World War I. But basically, Eastern Europe is devastated, taken back to farmland. Nothing else is around, and the game is area control. This is one of those games. Another one of the quests on the board game group was, what is your favorite game mechanic? And for me, it's a mix of mechanics. I love to get into a game, and there's so many different ways to win and so many different ways to score points that you can't just look down at the board and say, oh, well, this guy's winning. This guy's in second. This guy's in third. I don't want to have any idea. I want to go in. I want to just play the game, have fun. We'll get to the end. We'll score points at the end and see how everybody did. And this is one of those games. So, depending on, you don't know, that we'll have entire sessions where nobody attacks anybody. We go completely amilitary. We're just building up resources. We're claiming plots of land. We're building up our popularity. And that's the way somebody will end up winning. We'll have other ones where we get to the center of the board and everybody meets up, and it's a battle royal. Everybody goes at each other and tries to blow each other up, and you've got one man standing, and that's the winner of that game. We've got games where it's kind of a mixture of, these two people kind of blew each other up, these three people kind of stayed off to the side and watched, and it's so flip a coin. Who's going to win when you get to the end of it? Another reason though is I'm probably the first 3 or 4 times we played this game I won. This was my, I loved this game. I couldn't lose. That streak didn't last, but first 2 or 3 times I was unbeatable. So I really enjoyed that game.
So is there any correlation between the person that completes their goals first and who ends up winning the game, or is it like you complete the goals and you just hoping it was the right time to do it?
Absolutely, because like I said, there's so many different things that go into a winning score. As you're playing through, you're making decisions that change your popularity with the people. You're making decisions that change your military might. You're making decisions that could make it harder for you to maintain the land that you control. So it's all of those things kind of work together to build up that score. So just because you've gone through and you've completed, like you talked about, you've got these 6 or 7 goals that you're trying to complete throughout the game, and just because you got yours done first doesn't necessarily mean that even if somebody didn't get them all done, they've not done them better, more efficiently, scored more, did more to get it done, and by the end of the game, score more points.
And so I'll ask you a more general question because I saw that this is a Kickstarter game, and you get so many board games on Kickstarter. I've backed 1 or 2, and I've really loved them, like the 1 or 2 that I did. How many games do you think you back on Kickstarter on average? Like, are you someone
You're
that's
not required to answer this? If you got something, you got a Fifth Amendment rights here.
I'm safe. I'm like Jedi, so I'm not like Jedi. Jedi backs
everything.
He backs 5 or 6 games a year. But just like Jedi, we've got Spin, right? We've got Spinoculi. He's a guy on the site. He's probably got 350 board games. He buys the board games. He's the one who wants us to go to Gen Con. We just go to try to stop him from spending too much money on board games. We want him to keep his wife. We like his wife. We like his kids. We want him to be able to keep seeing them. So we go with him and we have a good time on his dime and we have a blast. But he's kind of our dealer. He's, I've backed 2 or 3 and they're fine, but it's like I said, the board game thing is really, if it wasn't for the group, I've got a shelf full. I've probably got 30 or 40 board games on a shelf downstairs, but I try to get games that I would play with, my wife and daughter, or, if I have, a group of people come over. I'm not a big party game person, but I do want games that will play like, 5 or 6 people. We can sit around a table and play. Whereas with the game group, we kind of get some meatier stuff, right? Some stuff that might take you a good 4, 5, 6 hours to get through a session. And you get to the end of it and you think, man, that was a workout. That was rough. And that's good stuff for us. But yeah, I'm safe when it comes to, I don't spend near the money that some of them do. That's for sure.
That wink you gave on camera here was a nice touch in the audio media.
No winks. No gifs. Wait, which one are you all?
No gifts. That's right. No gifts.
No gifts.
Only gifs.
Hard G is correct.
Only gifs.
Hard G. Are you sure, RG?
No gifts, only gifs.
It's hard.
That's what I heard was like,
choosy moms. Choosy moms don't choose GIF though, right? Choosy moms choose GIF.
It's these youth. Don't do this. You can't change a youth's mind. Just get to that future game, Ray.
All right, so we're gonna move on the note of taking shots at Jedi and Spin for overspending. We're gonna move on to the future now. So one game that you are looking forward to is Hogwarts Legacy on the Switch because it has not released yet. It's supposed to happen November 14th. That's the date we have. So tell me, are you looking forward to it because you love Hogwarts? Oh, because you love the Harry Potter series, or are you looking forward to it because you saw the game and you just really like the game?
It's more for the. I've been a Harry Potter fan since the books came out. I read the books since the books came out. I read the books first time in college, and then got through. I think the first 4 were out when I was in college. Kept up with them as they were coming out. Me and my wife would go see all the movies. When Emma was born and she was old enough, watched all the movies with her. We've gone and done the Universal, Hogwarts experience down there. So yeah, we're big Harry Potter nerds. We really enjoy it. So, and the game just looks fantastic. I've seen people play it. I've watched bits and pieces of it. I hear you talk about it. I think you've gone through it, and I don't know that you're completely done. Seems like I heard that you may have just recently beat it for the first time, or just finished the main quest. So I just hear so many good things about it. So
I was in a weird place. I pre-ordered it just to get the 3 days like extra playtime, which I didn't care about. My wife, who plays 0 video games, said she needed to play this game, so we pre-ordered it for her sake. She played it for 3 days straight, and as again, as someone who doesn't play any game, she loved it. She put it on story mode, and she's like, "Yeah, I just want to move and enjoy the story and kind of look around." I spent the pre-order that 3 days. I don't think I left the castle.
Oh yeah,
I got so little done because I love Harry Potter, read the books and everything. And I was just amazed that I was walking through the castle and the level of detail they had in it.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, the best part still is that I visited the kitchen.
Oh yeah.
Which you never see. Yeah. Yep. You never see. But like when I found it, I was like, oh yeah, that is where the kitchen would be. And you walk in, you see the elves working there. You're like, yeah, there's the food disappearing up into the grand hall. So
Yeah, like I said, I'm super pumped. I hear only good things. I've heard that it's exploring the castle, exploring the grounds. So many just little nods toward because it's set like 100 years in the past or it's pretty far back.
Yeah, so, somewhere in the 1800s. That's what
1800s. Yeah. So they're just little nods about things that are coming in the main series and bits and bobs about all of that. So like I said, I'm super pumped and. Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom are those were really the first big open world games, and I'm looking for something else, in another, I guess IP, another property that I can get into and it's got that same meat to it, that same level of let me spend 500 hours just really digging into this. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I'll say just I know some people that did that, and sometimes they'll spend when the quest ends, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna leave now and head back, and you can just follow that character, and then they put details where you can watch them walk for a while. They'll head back to where they're supposed to do. Some will apparate, but it makes sense. But they put detail in, and you could follow these NPCs around and get an extra story out of it essentially.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard of other games like that where the NPCs really do their own thing when you're not around. The Zelda games aren't like that. That's one thing that they've never had, right? They're kind of on a loop. They're only where they need to be, and that's all they do. Where I've heard of other games where it's you can really kind of just focus on one or two people and just see what do they do for their day, and it's interesting to be able to follow them around. So. Like I said, I'm digging the idea of it, and I'm looking forward to doing it. And then this will be another one where all three of us will play it here at the house. Whenever we have a big game like this, we always have to take turns. Emma will play it when nobody's home after school. I'll come home after work, and I'll play it for a little while, and then Andrea will play it before we go to bed, and that's kind of how we do it. And then I'll sneak in some extra time in the morning and at lunch, and that's how I kind of get ahead of everybody. But yeah, it'll be a family thing. We'll all do it together, and we'll probably all try to be in different houses so that we can kind of watch each other and not get spoiled on too much. And so we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to it.
Now we go on to a question from the Channel 3 history books. We don't warn you about this one. We pick one from the archives, usually one that you've answered here. We're actually going to borrow one today. Laugh at Brian, a.k.a. Brian McGinnis, runs a retro game fun time group. We're a lot of retro action in here. And we're going to borrow a quest from them. And we're going to ask you, what's the strangest retro game you've played?
I just answered this one the other day. That's great. The strangest retro game that I've played. We had a game growing up. My parents always had a console down. First one we had was Commodore VIC-20, old type of system. But it had cartridges. And the one that we played was Radar Rat Race. And Radar Rat Race, you were a mouse in a maze being chased by rats while you were looking for cheese. And there's nothing inherently weird about that. You turn the corner and you might run into a cat. Again, nothing inherently weird. Now, the three blind mice, kind of running on repeat as you're running through it. And then the farther you get, the faster it goes. It started to get a little odd. But the space bar, all of this stuff was done with a keyboard and mouse, right? Or a keyboard, it was up and down arrows on a keyboard. We didn't have the joystick for it. But the space bar was the action button. And you would fart sparkles. And the sparkles would confuse the rats. And that was weird, man. You can't, there's nothing not weird about that. So I think that wins the prize for me is the weirdest game I've ever played.
Yeah, you had Ray at Fart Sparkles. He couldn't even.
I would say I don't even have I don't even know how to follow up with that.
Right? How do you do anything with that? No, it was good. It was a fun game though. I go back and I look at, you can see pictures of people playing it, and it's very much an 8-bit, God, it is an old game, and it looks older now than I remember it looking. I remember being able to think, oh yeah, no, that definitely looks like a mouse, and yeah, that definitely looks like a cat. No, man, they're just blocky blobs on a screen. There's no mice and cat there.
And the last question we ask everyone on the podcast, what has been your favorite feature on Channel 3?
I knew that question was coming, and I've been thinking about that a lot. Gosh, my favorite feature on Channel 3 is I'll just go with one. I really like the XP race, right? I like chasing XP. I like chasing the experience points. It really keeps everybody invested in the site. It gives everybody a reason to go back every morning. What are today's quests? What are this week's quests? It gives you a reason to go back to historical things, right? You go back and you look at quests that were on the site a year ago. And hey, is that still active? Is that still open? Can I still get that 50 XP or that 100 XP? And then all of the little stuff that you unlock as you're going up in the levels, all of the gifts, all of the taglines, all of that stuff that comes from it. Like I said, that's been really fun for me. That is very unique to the Channel 3 site in regards to the different social medias that I've been a part of. So that to me that's the fun part. That's really enjoyable.
I find it funny whenever anybody does an old quest because I could see it and be like, oh man, I look at some of them like we made that a quest. Like Dan and I just like, yeah, this is a good idea. We're gonna throw this one out here. And I was like, I feel like we've gotten better at like how we build the quests and how we go about finding them. But some of the old ones, I was like, man, that's a really specific quest. Right. I'm amazed that someone can still do it, but it's always funny to see when those come up.
And the best part is the floodgates open, and then other people start jumping on it when they see that hits the timeline.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say. It's funny to watch. Somebody will go out and they'll hit a quest on maybe a specific game or a system or whatever, and then all of a sudden, all of the other ones are expired. And it's like, are you all going out there and just expire? It's like, all right, wait a minute. Let's slow down. Because now you guys kind of have them timed out, and they expire at the end of the week. And I don't know if expiration was like a thing that was added in.
That's
later.
Just the week. That's just the weekly ones. Those are the ones that with like the lockdown for the week.
Yeah.
Otherwise, most of the ones that are there every day, we just leave them there until the end of time.
Oh yeah.
And there's other ones we've been adding in, not telling anybody either, that have been added in for game, like the tagline ones and things like that. We're just peppering them in once in a while too.
If it's expired, it usually means like you just can't do it. A lot of them are like the live game stuff, and it's like someone commented on one that we did was get an elimination in Fortnite with the fire arrows while on the giant chair.
Yeah,
does that
even exist anymore?
It doesn't. It's so obnoxiously specific, and it was there for like 2 weeks only.
Yeah,
it showed up, and we're like, this has to be a quest. Sure. So it sits there because a couple people have videos of it, but there is no giant chair anymore.
Yeah.
But it may come back. So I also don't want to expire it.
It might show up.
Exactly. Kinetic sword elimination. I'm not going to get rid of it because actually there are other game modes that have it anyway.
Yeah, and it's coming back. It's supposed to come back. Kinetic sword is supposed to come back.
And then I know there's lightsaber illumination, and it's like,
they always show up.
Hey, guess what? Guess what's going to happen in about 48 hours? I'm pretty sure. Your boy Jedi's going to be real happy because Ahsoka's coming in. I'm guessing Star Wars season is back.
He'll be playing his first couple of games of Fortnite. That's for sure.
And lightsabers will be right there again.
Yep,
which are always fun.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, with that, we've made it to the end of another What Are Your Three podcast. Thank you, Dennis, for being with us tonight. You can find the podcast at c3.gg/podcast, dropping every Wednesday morning at 3:33 a.m. Eastern on all the major platforms, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. I'm Ray. Dan Tucker puts this all together. And for our executive producer, Joel Willis, have a good day, everybody.